Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I will be doing a book haul video. I did these one of these a few months ago. It was lots of fun to do, and got a lot of engagement, and I like doing these because I like being able to talk about the books I'm getting and excited about and see if you're also excited about those. And if you've read those, let me know your comments down below. If you really liked them, didn't like them, whatever. I love reading the comments. So I'll begin with the first books that I got, which is, I got 3 books by one author, part of her series. It's called Rhapsody, Prophecy, and Destiny by Elizabeth Haydon. And from what I can gather, I've actually never heard anyone on BookTube talk about these books before, but I'll provide some of my reasonings for why I got them, and then also I'll provide my initial thoughts overall. So I have seen these in the used bookstores in my area for quite a while. There's 2 main bookstores. By the way, all the books I got here for this video, I got from a place called Givens Books and Little Dickens, located in Lynchburg, Virginia. Fantastic bookstore. Highly recommend them. They're very professional there. Got a nice selection too. And I've seen this there. I've also seen it at another bookshop. And this caught my eye because of, believe it or not, the cover art. And you know they say don't judge a book by its cover, but that's literally the reason that the cover is there, is to entice you to want to get the book so that you can read it because you saw, oh, that looks interesting. And this book was released in the late 90s, and then these ones are released in the 2000s. And this is an art style that Tor did during that time, popularized by people like Darrell K. Sweet, which was very much classic fantasy in feel, even if the book itself wasn't classic fantasy. You get this with like the Wheel of Time books. You also get this with the Rune Lords books. You know, that classic fantasy feel. In fact, when you go on Goodreads and you look up Rhapsody, the first, at least for me this is the case, the first book that's recommended is the book Rune Lords. And when you look up Rune Lords, the first book that's recommended is Rhapsody. And of course, Rune Lords is one of my favorite series. So that made me excited because it said people who liked this book liked this book. This book series apparently has a lot to do with music, despite also being a kind of epic fantasy series. And it seems to be kind of in a post-apocalyptic world by the description. And so I'll be honest, I bought these books purely based off of the cover look, and also because I like buying mass markets for fantasy because they kind of fit with the overall aesthetic. So it's Rhapsody, Prophecy, and Destiny. And it seems like each book gets longer, and I am here for it. I'm very excited to dive into those books. When? I don't know, because I have a bajillion books on my TBR. I also got a standalone novel by Michael A. Stackpole called Eyes of Silver, and I've seen this book in bookstores, used bookstores, for years, and I never bothered because I wasn't too excited, but I've been gobbling up Mike Stackpole books recently because I got to actually meet Mr. Stackpole recently. It was a ton of fun. Did a little interview, which is on the channel, you can check out. I really have been getting into his fantasy. His fantasy standalone, Talion Revenant, is one of my favorite fantasy standalones I've ever read. And it's highly underrated and should be read by more people. And this book, Eyes of Silver, I think, is a fantastic cover, despite how cheesy it is. It looks very cheesy in its in the way that it's portrayed, but I like it because it's eye-catching, because when I saw it, I was like, oh, that looks like a old cheap movie. And then you look on the back and there's some interesting cover art on the back too. And so I really like that thing. I really like mass market paperback fantasy books, as I mentioned earlier. This will go nicely with all the other Michael Stackpole mass market books that I own. So I'm really excited to dive into this. I don't know that much about the book, but I know Mike Stackpole and I know he's always a win. I feel like if you've ever seen that channel Cinema Wins, he says so-and-so's always a win. That's how I feel with Mike Stackpole as an author. So the next books that I got are a trilogy. They're a YA dystopian trilogy. And if you had told me a year ago I would be buying these books, I would not believe you. But here we are. So the books are The Hunger Games, Catching Fire and Mockingjay, which I have to let you know, it was super annoying that I was able to find Catching Fire and Mockingjay in hardcover, but I could not, no matter what bookstore I went to, could not find the original Hunger Games novel in hardcover, so I settled for a trade paperback instead. I have a friend group that gets together just about every weekend or sometimes every other weekend, and we will play games and watch a movie. And we have gone through The Lord of the Rings, we've gone through Star Wars, we've gone through Harry Potter, we've gone through Star Trek, we've gone through Marvel. We've done a lot of big blockbuster movies, that series that we've watched all the way through as a group. And one of our group members, for months, suggested that we do the Hunger Games movies. And I held off as long as I could because I don't care about dystopians. But we eventually watched them, and I highly enjoyed them. I don't think they're my favorite movies ever, and I don't think that they're a movie series that I could rewatch all the time or really dive too much into it. But we watched them. We watched Hunger Games, and then we watched Catching Fire, and then we watched both parts of Mockingjay on the same night. We were up super late, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun getting to hang out and watch the two movies back to back. We didn't have to experience the year-long wait that people did watching the original movie. But anyway, so I really enjoyed them and wanted to give the books a read. I've heard that the movie was pretty much a faithful adaptation, except the books are first person, so the movie couldn't tell everything about Katniss's thoughts, but still, I'm very interested in reading this trilogy. I have heard, I've watched some videos from Murphy Napier saying that she didn't like the way the third book ended. So, and I know someone else who literally gave up on the third book. Like, they literally stopped reading it because they weren't interested. So I'm actually interested to see whether I will like it or not. Although I really enjoyed the films, and particularly the film's ending. I was happy. I caught when Katniss kills him. I caught it. I knew it was going to happen before it happened. Before the moment she has a meeting with, I was like, okay, that's totally what's going to happen. I was super happy when I called that. That was a lot of fun. Maybe it was too obvious in the beginning of the movie, but I was happy that I knew going in. So I got those books, and then the final book I got is Anxious People by Fredrik Bachman. I've read a lot of Fredrik Bachman's work. I've read most of his fiction work, and I've highly enjoyed him. He wrote A Man Called Ova, which I thought was a great book. He wrote My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry, which is a very good book. He also wrote And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer, which I think is his best work, despite being a very short novella. And then he also wrote Britt Marie Was Here, which was good, and Beartown, which I still to this day don't know how to talk about Beartown because, man, that is a interesting book. That's a heavy book to talk about. So I've enjoyed his writing style, and I don't read much contemporaries. I mostly just read fantasy, sci-fi, and tie-in books. I, of course, have read mysteries, and recently I read a legal thriller, so I'm branching out. But I want to get into more contemporaries, and this book was in a used bookstore for hardcover, which I really liked. And so it was in hardcover and paperback, and there was $1 difference. And I was like, well, I'm getting the hardcover. So I was very excited to see that this book was available. And I've heard good things about this book. One anecdote that I always talk about whenever I talk to someone about this book is that when this book came out on Goodreads, it went up against the book Midnight Library by, I think it's Matt Haig. And those books both went up for the Contemporary Fiction Award for the Goodreads Choice Awards, and the vote count was only 5 votes difference between this book and Midnight Library. Midnight Library won by 5 votes. That's out of, I want to say, 30,000+ cast. That is incredible. Absolutely incredible how close the vote was on that one. I have a screenshot that I got on my phone when I saw it because I was like, that's cool. And so I'm interested to read this, and eventually I'll probably read Midnight Library and be able to tell you which one was actually the better book. But I enjoyed a lot of Fredrik Bachman's books and look forward to reading this one. This is a very different premise for him, so I'm interested in reading it. So that is my book haul that I got. It's not the biggest book haul I've ever done, but it was a lot of fun getting to go to the used bookstores, especially before I move. I'm going to be sad moving and not being able to be near these bookstores. So if you've read any of these books, let me know your thoughts on them. If you have any thoughts on the covers or anything, let me know. I'd really like to talk with you about them. If you like the Hunger Games movies and the books, let me know which ones were your favorites and which ones you think were not so good. Let me know all that down in the comments section below. But until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.